people knew her by her will, to make it whatever she put her mind to. Late night hours up the hill, serving coffee to strangers, talking about revenue. She kept dreaming of a world big enough for everyone, but she knew it must rain before it grows. She kept dreaming of the day butterflies survive the wheel, even though she got knocked down and never showed. Dear Lily, where'd you go? Where's your heart at? Why'd you fall back? Lately your afterglow is shining bright.
Okay, raise your hand if you came last year. Not a whole lot of you. Wow. Okay. Well, this is cool. You're in for a treat. I'm sorry it's raining. It also rained last year. I was saying to someone we need to have blankets next year and just have them all laid out on the hay bales, so everybody has a blanket, right? Heated blanket. Well, so since most of you haven't been here, this will warm up very quickly once everybody's in here and we get going. And then as the day goes throughout, even though the sun's not going to come out today, it will warm up in here. There is a demo. I don't know if they're going to do it today. I will get with Daniel and see, since it's raining, they were going to do a demo of moving electric netting like a girl, because he loves moving electric netting. It's just so much fun. All right, ladies, so it's a very laid back weekend. Normally I don't know if they have it back here yet, but normally there's coffee in the back, all weekend long, water and all that stuff. There's bathrooms. We'll have breaks in between. We have vendors, not in the next hoop house, but the other hoop house over. All right, so we're going to give it a few more minutes, and then Ann Aceta-Scott is going to come up and introduce Janet Garman, our first speaker, and we'll get the weekend started, okay?
Thank you. I felt like we were surrounded by people that worked for the government, and they just didn't understand why we were even farming in the first place. Because it was the usual classic lines, like, you don't shop at the store, and you actually have goats that have fiber, and what do you do with it? And it's just like, I knew we weren't speaking the same language, and after a while it just starts to wear you down. But anyway, God was asking me to reach out. He said no to moving, and instead the message was clearly, be the light here, teach here, and serve me here. But I didn't know how to do that. So while we were dreaming of the future farm, we had not cultivated a homestead farm community where we are. So how did I find this community? I had one neighbor who had joined our property who was a homesteader. She was my only person. And she was continually getting rid of things. And I'm like, you don't get rid of things, you just get more animals. Anyway, she might be a little smarter than me. But the surprising thing is that while I was kind of all flustered about this whole thing, people began to approach me, and they wanted me to teach canning. And then they found out I made soap, and they were like, can you teach me how to make soap? And these things were just happening, and I wasn't seeking it. It was just happening. And I was like, this is amazing. People were asking me, can you walk through my property and show me what kind of herbs I have and things that we can use? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So I was actually starting to form some new relationships in the area.
So we have 7 children, 2 of which are adopted. One night, sitting on their beds, apologizing once again for whatever had happened that day. Probably I was yelling at them about something because they weren't conforming to my ideas. I realized that it's a natural part of development. If they wouldn't start seeing my mistakes, they would never look to God. I have to give them that freedom to say, oh, here's what's happening. You start seeing my mistakes, God's calling you to Him. I am no longer the highest authority in your life. You're now that you see that I am not God, here, I can point you to somebody that is perfect. This person will never let you down like your mom did. But it's so freeing to be able to tell them, yeah, I'm not perfect, but here's who is. This is who you answer to.
Can y'all hear all right? Okay, I'll try and stay close to the mic, but I tend to sort of pace.
Since we are not green and cannot photosynthesize, we depend on things that can, and that is the kingdom called plants. And everything else that lives on the planet, with so few exceptions that we can just ignore them, because they happen in places like at the bottom of the Marianas Trench in the Pacific Ocean and not where we can get at them. So with few exceptions, everything on this planet lives, that lives because plants photosynthesize. So plants are the most basic level of energy. Problem, most plant parts aren't edible to us. So the plants grow, but that doesn't necessarily mean we get to eat. So we either grow plants with parts we can and like to eat, or we keep animals who can convert the ones we can't eat into things that we can eat. Stick around tomorrow and I'll talk more about this pattern because it's my favorite thing to talk about. and I'll also be able to use it in disaster management tomorrow. But right now, I just want to give you the basic idea that plants live, and we have to manage our farms according to the natural patterns so that with the least amount of work and the greatest amount of synchrony, right, of wonderful, serendipitous, natural, good things happening, and they bless us, we can produce food for ourselves. We're going to manage our plants either so that we use and this is going to be the bulk of your farming. Can I detour into this real fast? I think I can. Okay, think about it this way. 40% of the land mass of the planet is grasslands. And that includes Antarctica, so it tells you how much grasslands there really are in the places we live. Grasslands provide, in many places, 12 months of the year solar harvest. And in the places where grass isn't actively growing for 12 months of the year, it is at least present in harvestable form 12 months of the year. Like here on Polyface, there's grass out there for the cows to graze, and there will be right through the winter. If there's a gap, Joel can fill it with a little bit of hay, but it's all going to be grass. Grass is 80% cellulose, and you can't digest it. Almost nothing can digest cellulose. Bacteria are good at it. So there are bacteria in the soil that can turn it into fertility, and there are bacteria in the stomachs of ruminants like cows, sheep, and goats who will turn it into milk, meat, and manure so that the grass will grow better next time.
How long did it take? Did you like Chinese water torture? He actually wants to do it, but I just wanted to know for people who might have issues with their husbands or their spouse that's like, we don't need to do homesteading. We're good as we are. So what did you do, and how do you, strong arm him into it?
I didn't, and this would probably be something I want him to answer because I really don't know, except that I don't feel like I made him ever do anything that he didn't want to do, because it wasn't his thing. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted chickens, then I needed to take care of the chickens. If I wanted goats, which we never got, then I would take care of the goats. Now here's what he does do. He does support me, and like I wanted a milk cow, and he's like, okay, I'll go get you a milk cow, but you're gonna milk the cow,
She didn't change me. God changed me. So she's probably praying for me.
I did pray for you a lot.
The cow is still not my thing. I'll feed it hay, I'll snuggle with it. I don't milk it.
But it's not his thing.
Yeah. And I would just second, don't make your spouse do anything.
this is us in real life. Truly the soul of what drives you to stop and think about achieving food freedom, about achieving religious freedom, about achieving the ability to live freely, and the goals that you're going to meet, and that the one person that is guiding you to do this is your maker. You guys, Amy Fuel.
When we were planning this event, my friend Janet, I don't know if she's in here or not, Janet, she was a speaker this morning. She's like, you should really speak. I'm like, fine. So I was asking the Lord a few weeks back, what did he want me to speak about? And I knew the title of it, For Such a Time as This, but that's all I had. And I'm like, well, this is great, God, but I have no idea what you actually want me to talk about and to what depth you want me to talk about.
And so I was sitting down actually just like 4 days ago, y'all, is when this all came together, because I procrastinate. That's why I hire an amazing HOA team. Give them a round of applause, because they actually get everything done. And so I was sitting there in prayer, and the Lord just said, you know what, tell them your story. And through that, I want them to see in their story how much I love them. The purpose of this talk is to show you that no matter who you are, what your homestead looks like, or no homestead at all, whether you're married or single, children or not, you were born for such a time as this. It's not a secret that the world is just crazy, right? It's way crazier than it was when we were growing up. You are homesteading, and you have a homesteading dream, not because it's a trend. It's not an accident. It's a calling. Literally, what you're doing right now will be the backbone of America again one day. America used to be small farms and family farms and small businesses, and that's what ran America, okay? When you realize that homesteading and what you're doing right now is the heart of God, we prepare better. We have longevity. It helps us get through the day, our hard days, helps us deal with our spouses that don't want to do this, or our families who call us crazy. We war better. We don't strive in vain, and we are born with a purpose, and we birth new things with purpose. You're not just any longer taking care of chickens. Now your chickens really do have a purpose.
Afraid we're trapped in a chaotic situation, and it's time to remember that God is God, and he made an orderly universe that's beautiful, that loves us. We belong. It was made for us and we for it. And we are really intended to be here homesteading and do it well without a PhD and without $1 million.
Now that we've talked about all the hard things about the heart of the family, I'm going to get really practical today about using childhood chores to develop character in your children. Now, what I'm telling you does not mean that I don't lose my cool with my children. It does not mean that I am a perfect mom by any means. I'm just sharing what I've learned over the last 23 years and things that I've changed that have really worked and things that don't work. But set your family's goals and hang them up really, really high, because you don't want to keep moving that goal. You want it to be very high to start with. And see it like a flashlight where it's shining down. And when you're at the beginning of gathering your children together for character development, that beam, the reason you want that so far away is so that the beam falls really wide, because you're going to have children at all different stages of development. But you want to just slowly bring them all in closer to the center of that goal. And it's not going to happen in a month or a year. It's a lifelong endeavor. Even with our adult children, It's not a daily thing, but you're still guiding them when they ask you questions with words. You're still drawing them closer to the center of that goal that you have for your family's character.
If I can do that. He was the bread. He's the true vine. He's the good shepherd. He's the door. We'll come back to that one. But he's the door. What does that even mean? I didn't really realize what it meant until a year ago when we started putting up the sheep at night because we didn't have fences to contain them and I was done with netting. So I just decided that the sheep would just go with the cows in the morning at a suggested pasture. And by lunchtime, they had gotten over the suggestion and had gone somewhere else. And so at night, we would put them up behind the barn in an enclosure. And then I learned that back in the day, there weren't doors. There would be stone walls. And at the door, there was an opening. There was no gate. So the opening was laid upon by the shepherd. He laid in the door. So when he says, I know the Father, and the Father knows me, and I laid down my life for the sheep, all of that comes together in a totally different way when you understand that he's the door.
Built to know so much information, but we know it, and so then it comes and it gets in us, and we can, if you're like me, easily feel the weight of the world, and it brings a heaviness over your home. But we have to make a choice, and we have to say, okay, I'm going to choose to lift my eyes to the hills, to the one who made the heavens and the earth. I'm going to choose to set my mind and my heart on things above and not on things of this earth. I'm going to choose to lift my gaze. I'm going to choose to let my gaze be captivated by the one who made me and created me and knows everything that this day holds before I even get there.